Hello everyone. This is a video overview showing how to use the AI slide designer in PowerPoint, and this will come in quite handy when it's time for you to work on your upcoming Fallacies project, which requires you to create a PowerPoint addressing some specific things that I ask you to look at with whatever you end up choosing for the top 10 fallacies you think that people should know the most. What you're seeing here is a PowerPoint. This is done by my husband, and we're in the paid version of Word here. I'm going to show you how to do it in the paid version and the free version. It's pretty much the same thing, just looks a tiny bit different. So I have a slide open here, and I'm in the Home tab. If you look over here to the right, there is a little icon that says Design Suggestions. If you click that, you'll notice that whenever you put an image on a slide, it will come over here and give you a variety of layouts that you can choose from, and you can play around with that until you get one that you like, and you can add the text. You can also, when you open up a blank PowerPoint, you can start typing some text and it will generally pull in images that it thinks might fit. They're usually okay but not great. You know, for your presentation you will have to either curate by finding images online, or you can create AI generated images, which is what you see here. So all the images here, even of the real looking people, like this woman right here, all of these are AI generated. It's kind of fun to do, and I think it can create a lot of visual appeal to your PowerPoint if you choose to do that. And I will say that the AI art generators or image generators have gotten a lot better over time, even the free ones. So this is what it looks like in here. Obviously this PowerPoint is already done, but when you can do things like this and pop a picture in, and then you've got, you know, these different options over here, and then all you've got to do is do your text. It sure takes a lot of the agony out of trying to design a slide by yourself or just finding a template. So I think it can really take your slide decks to a new level. Let me go ahead and minimize these two screens. Now I'm going to go into the school version of PowerPoint, and let me go over here. So the easiest way to navigate to your school Word apps is to go into your Jagmail account. I just go in through the web. I don't go in through Jagnet, and you see all of the apps that you have here. So I'm going to click on PowerPoint. This is the free version that you have in the school. So I'm going to click on create a blank presentation, and it looks like it's going to make me sign in. And then there we go. I have a blank PowerPoint here. So I'm going to come over here and copy an image that I already had saved. Let me go over here to the new presentation, and let me right click this and change the slide layout. Maybe I want to do something like this, and I'm going to paste that, you know, over here. So I pasted that, and this is pretty cool. I've got the different little layouts over here, and I can come over here and type my text and play around with that. So it's a really great tool, and I just wanted to show you that it's in the free version, it's in the paid version, and it's kind of one of the best kept secrets that's out there. So let me wrap this so that I can show you some of the other things that you might find useful with the AI art generators. Let's take a look at a few places where you can create free AI images for your presentation. The first place you probably already know about, and that is ChatGPT. On the free tier, you can create, I think, 2 images per day. On the paid tier, you can create 50 images every 3 hours. But as you can see here, it does a really good job. This is just one example, and they've made a lot of improvements to the image generator that they use underneath this, and the prompt coherence is really good now. So if you want to create text on the image, it's really good at doing that and getting things correct. And if something is not correct, then you can just put your edit down below. So let's say, for example, if it had misspelled something or didn't include something that I wanted, I could just come here and basically ask for the correction to that, and it'll regenerate that same image and correct whatever it is. I'll show you an example of that in one of the other generators. Another good choice is Google's Gemini. You can do the same thing. You can either create the descriptors yourself, or you can get AI to create some options for you and even do a combination of mixing and matching. Maybe you get it to write some descriptors, maybe you go in and tweak those, maybe you have some expertise in photography or visual media, and so maybe your descriptive powers are pretty good. And it can also be kind of fun and satisfying to see what you can get, if you can get, the things that you're looking for. So this was one image that I created, and then I got it to create some different descriptors, tried out some of those. This one was pretty neat. And then here's one that's kind of dark and surreal. And notice how in this one it did one that was whimsical and cartoonish, but notice that it's kind of nonsense words coming out of the straw man figure. So a little bit further down the thread, you'll see that I corrected that, and it changed the cartoon a little bit, but then we have the correct text in this bubble and in this bubble. So this is one of the great things about the advancements in the image generators, is that the text coherence in many of them is a lot better than it used to be. Here's another one. This came from just a natural description to me. I thought it might depict more symbolically and visually what the straw man fallacy is, if you kind of show that it's not a fair fight between a real fighter and a man that's literally made out of straw. There's no fight, no argument at all there. And so straw man fallacy is when you misrepresent what your opponent's argument is, because when you do that, it's a lot easier to defeat if you kind of put words in their mouth and misrepresent what their argument is and then attack that instead of their real argument. So I played around with that a little bit, and then I riffed off of the idea of having two attorneys in a court of law, a human attorney and a straw man attorney, to kind of illustrate the same thing, and then played around with that a little bit more. And then here's the one where I went back and attempted to fix that first cartoon where, see, somebody's saying, see, they're clearly saying this, and then the straw man is saying, that's not what I'm saying, to indicate it's been misrepresented. So this is pretty cool. You could actually create things like this, and you can create it in a variety of different styles. These are just kind of showing you what the options are. Another really good option is the Bing Image Creator, and I'm currently in the Edge browser, which I like to be in when I want to do things like this, because I love using the slide out chat because it's really good. So this is one of the ways that you can access that. And for those of you that don't know, the Bing Copilot and the image generator, all of that has ChatGPT under the hood. It's not quite the same thing as as ChatGPT itself, but that's the model that's underneath. So the same image models that they have in ChatGPT, they have over here in Copilot. And I don't remember what the limits are on the free version, but they're pretty generous, and probably more generous than what they are in the free version of ChatGPT, but we'll have to check and experiment with that. So here I am riffing on the other kind of boxing thing there and seeing what the different options are. And here's another one. So these are three. They're all free. For the Bing Image Creator, you can access it either here in Edge browser with the slide out chat here. There are other neat features that maybe I'll talk about later that you can use the Bing slide out chat for. And you can also access Copilot or the Bing image generator from a regular tab as well. So on this one, I have the image creator for Bing. I'm going to click on the link for that, and I just typed in Bing Image Creator. And notice here, if you don't want to do it in the slide out chat, I just like the slide out chat because it's convenient. No matter what I'm doing, I can just slide that out and use it for that, or have it summarize a web page or a PDF or whatever the case may be. But here I'm in the full web page version of the Bing image creator, and so I could just describe what I needed right here and click create and create those images. Once you do have those images, so let me just go back here. If I was going to use this particular image in my presentation, I would need to download it. So for this one, I won't be able to copy paste it into the presentation. I would actually need to download it and then pull that into the presentation. So I've already chosen one and created another slide over here, and I have already saved it. So I would have to go over here to the insert menu and then go to pictures, and since I saved it on this device, I'll go where I saved it, and I saved one of the cartoon images from Gemini and I put it there. Now notice here it kind of cut off part of the image, but it doesn't really matter because I've got the options over here that I could click on to choose whichever one that I wanted. So those are 3 of the AI art generators. They all have a free version. They're going to have a limit to them, but the great thing is that when you're working on something like this, you could create a couple of images on ChatGPT, and then when you run out for the day, you could bounce over and use Google Gemini, which is also very good on the image generation, and use that. And then you could also bounce over to the Bing image creator, or you can access it from the web, and those are really convenient options. If you wanted to experiment with any other AI art generators or image generators that you're familiar with, you certainly are welcome to do that. Most of the paid ones have some kind of free version associated with them. I'm familiar with a couple of them, but I don't use those extensively. I use Midjourney, and then sometimes I play around on these other ones that I have access to through the other 3 models. But Flux is one that's good, Flux image generator, and they've got a couple of others too. So there's lots of stuff to choose from, but I think these are the 3 lowest hanging fruit and the easiest options. There's also a free AI image generator on Padlet. So if you clicked into one of the Padlets in the course and then clicked on your icon and went to your dashboard, you can actually create Padlets yourself if you wanted to, and store study materials or notes, recipes, pretty much anything. But you can also go in there, and they've got a little AI art generator in there too. It's probably not going to be as good as these 3, but these 3 are all pretty good and a fun way. Again, for the project that you're working on, you're not obligated to create images with AI, but many students like the creative aspect of that, and I think kind of get a kick out of it. I've gotten some good feedback on that assignment, and even though I think probably students spend the most time on the image generator aspect, probably because it's kind of fun and because they're trying to get good images for their presentation, but I think I've gotten good feedback on the presentation as a whole. So I hope you enjoy doing it too and learn a little something along the way. So that'll close out this segment. We have a few more things to look at before you're ready to start tackling this assignment. Okay, let's take a look at the Fallacy project itself. When that becomes live for the class, you'll either click on the link or the caret to expand it, and you'll see that there's a really brief mini lesson there on fallacies and a few examples of those. There's an overview of the PowerPoint AI Designer, which I've already talked about a little bit in this video, and then there's the link for the project or the presentation itself. By now you probably already kind of get the gist of it. You're creating a PowerPoint with those top 10 fallacies you think everybody ought to know. And to do that, it might take a little bit of research, a little bit of you looking on the internet to see which ones kind of seem most important or interesting to you and narrowing down your list. You might also end up having a conversation with AI to be presented with some options and using it as a brainstorming partner for that, and even a co-creator in creating the PowerPoint. And for each one of those slides or fallacies that you choose, you'll either be creating an AI image that symbolizes or goes with that in some aspect, or you'll be curating and searching the internet to find images that go with that, and then you'll be explaining some things and that I ask you to include on the slide or in the presentation. I do ask for a lot of things here, so if it ends up taking a lot of space on your slide deck, you might want to consider a couple of options to minimize that. One of those options might be to create a voiceover to include part of what you need to include verbally so that you're not cluttering up the slide too much. And another option might be to create 2 slides per fallacy so you can split that up and still have the image component and not too much text on any one slide. In addition to the presentation itself and what it requires, you'll also be writing a reflection on the process and also on any AI use you undertake besides using AI image generators. If you use that, you don't have to include any threads or whatnot, but you would talk about it in the reflection along with other things. And I do have an example of a reflection there. And of course, you're going to compile everything into a nice, neat PowerPoint, and hopefully using some of the things I've shown you in this video to make your life a little bit easier. Obviously, you can use the internet, course lessons, and AI to complete this assignment, but it's okay that on this particular assignment, AI can do some pretty heavy lifting, but we kind of don't want it to do 100% of the work. We want to have some mental investment from you so that you're actually learning something from this, gleaning something, and also teaching the rest of us, because you may be presenting some fallacies that the rest of us don't know about, or that maybe we had heard of, but we really didn't know what it was or didn't see a good example of it, and so on. And so you'll make sure that you're kind of staying in charge of the creative process. Have some reminders there on best practices and principles for PowerPoints, and a reminder at the end of what you're turning in. You're turning in at least a 10-slide PowerPoint saved as a file. So Blackboard will take the actual PowerPoint itself, and I'll show you a couple of examples of that. So let me click down here. Here's one student example from last semester, and he did a great job in that he answered all of the questions that I call for in the assignment, but he put it in a giant paragraph here, and it still looks nice because he's got some really nice imagery that he worked to create. And like here's one, an appeal to pity, a crying baby in a courtroom. So he's got some really great images, and he does a good job explaining over here. The only thing about this is that this is a little bit too much text ideally for a PowerPoint. Imagine if you were in a class presenting this, nobody would want you reading all of this. Generally, when you have a PowerPoint, you're going to have things on there that are going to be just enough to remind you of what you need to talk about and for people to anchor on. But it is a good example of a PowerPoint. And then I have, let's see, here is another one. This is a good one too. This student has almost everything that he needs on the slide deck, but he left out some things on the slide, but he did a good job. There's less text here, and so it's not quite as cluttered, but he's missing a few things. So if he had done a voiceover, then he could have included probably the other things and fit it all on there. But this is another pretty good example, and a lot of varied images on the different slides. And this student used a variety of AI image generators, even some that I hadn't even heard of. So he tried more than one. And then I have another here that the student saved his as a PDF. I think he wasn't sure if it would save as a PowerPoint. But he used ChatGPT for his images, and he kind of kept a thematic, a visually thematic thing going. Now, in terms of what the text he has over here, he's missing a lot of stuff that I asked for, but overall, the look of his PowerPoint, he's still got a good grade, but he left off, a lot of the things that I asked for on it. But it's got a great bit of visual cohesion. And one of the things that I talked about earlier was that most of the free generators now have, like Copilot, Bing Copilot, Gemini, and ChatGPT, they have really good prompt coherence, and so they're a lot better about putting text on here that you put. And if there's some kind of small error, it's really easy to have it fix that. And so what I like about this student's is that it's all got a kind of a visually thematic cohesion to it. They're all in the same style, but I also really like these others that had a variety of styles, and kind of a lot of all of them had a lot of effort in terms of trying to create something that represented those fallacies. So those are some examples of what we're shooting for. These are not necessarily the best examples that I had, but they're good examples of students who did these in the right spirit and did a good job and got a good grade on that assignment. If you have the paid version of ChatGPT, it'll actually create a PowerPoint for you, like as in the file. It'll create the file for you, but it basically will just put the basic text on it. So when you are using, say, ChatGPT to create or to help you, I would come in here and have a conversation with it, choose your slides, tell it what the assignment is. And one thing that's super useful is to have it help you create the text for the slide deck, or come up with the examples. And then, if you don't like something, you can change it. And I'm sure you probably know, I'm not sure if this is free if it's on the free tier, but I'm pretty sure it is. The canvas should be, when you click this and you're doing it, it opens with a little sidebar over here that you can actually edit things for. But you can, if I wanted to create a PowerPoint right now, I could, tell it to create a 10-slide PowerPoint on, such and such fallacies. Now, it probably won't be the greatest if you do that. It's just going to be the plain text or whatever. But what's nice about that is then you can go put the images in, then you can go back and edit the text. But you can do a lot of that legwork here, even in PowerPoint. If you have the free version, it won't actually create the file for you, but it can still help you create the text for it, and that can be copy pasted in. I also know a hack where you can create the VBA code for PowerPoint and import that in, and it will import in the text that you want for the slide, and then you're putting the images in and tweaking that. So in this one, Gemini or ChatGPT or even Claude, they can help you a great deal in terms of helping design what's going on there, but you're going to have to tweak it and oversee it. And you might even be able to find better examples of the various fallacies by looking for things online, or if you have access to any of the deep research tools. I have 25 more left until July 20th. Then you can often get AI to do a deep research. Gemini has really good deep research too, and now Claude does as well on the paid versions. You might be able to get some of that on Perplexity, which is another AI platform, but it's more like AI for a search engine type thing. But it's really cool, and it's got some neat features that could be helpful here too. But that's basically it. That's what we're looking at for this presentation, and you have many weeks to do this. So I will say you can either, kind of hit this full steam, knock it out and be done with it, or if you want, you can kind of take your time and, maybe choose your 10 fallacies, get your images made, and, do a couple of slides a week, and then you'll have it done. So you can either do it bit by bit, a little bit each week, or you can kind of do it in a shorter time frame. But this is going to be due in week 9 for the summer session, so you have plenty of time to do this. This is worth 5% of your overall grade, so you're going to want to make sure you do a good job on it. You don't want to give up half a letter grade, but you also don't want to agonize on it. This is not meant to be anything that's stressful. If anything, it's meant to be kind of fun to do if you're so inclined. And for those who really want to get creative, if you wanted to do something like create a web page that has the fallacies on there, you could try your hand doing that. It's a big thing on the internet now, vibe coding, where you kind of just explain what you want, and or you provide it the text that you want, and you say, I want to create a web page that does these things, and you can do that. It's a little bit more involved than just doing that. It takes a little bit of time to do it, and to figure out how to do what all you need to do, but that's an option for anybody who's like ambitious or wants to do something outside of the box. But for everybody else, PowerPoint and creating the AI images ought to be fun enough, and hopefully the time you spend in doing this will result in some of this like sticking in your brain long after the course is gone. So that's it. That's the last segment of this video, and that's the upshot of what you have to do for this assignment. So that's it. Y'all have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.